katoa, kia orana and warm Pacific greetings to you all. Thank you for choosing to be here with us tonight. And also I want to acknowledge Hari te wiki o te reo Māori, ake, kia kaha te reo Māori. Who am I? Ko Rachel Masters aho, he uri aho no te kuki airani and Pākehā. I'm an industry relationship manager here at Te Wānanga Aranui o Tamaki Makaurau, and I'm excited that I will be facilitating the first part of this panel discussion. There'll also be a Q&A at the end that will be facilitated by Laura Keohall, who is the Chief Executive for the Pacific Business Hub. So tonight, this korero is to explore the unique contributions of Māori and Pacific entrepreneurs and innovators and the impact of their work on the broader business landscape. Last year, I don't know if anyone was here last year, but we had some amazing Māori and Pacific people working in the corporate space. But tonight we wanted to shine a light on those who have started their own business or who aspire to. Māori and Pacific communities are leading a wave of innovative and successful ventures, blending traditional wisdom with modern business practices. This entrepreneurial spirit, deeply rooted in cultural values, is driving transformative initiatives and setting new benchmarks in the business sector. Sounds real smart, it's all in the event. Not my words. So now that we've set the context, I'd like to introduce and welcome our panellists and guests. We've got Anau Mesui-Henry, who's a co-founder of the Four Shells Kava Lounge. Don't know if anyone's been. Has anyone been? Yes, yeah, good. Joanna Bourke, who is the CEO of the Pacific Cooperation Foundation. And Ciccone Hakaraia-Turner, who's one of our current Bachelor of Business tauira, who is majoring in international business and strategy. Yeah, thank you for being here. I suppose let's get to know you. Let's know you talk. If I could ask if you could share a little bit about who you are, where you're from, what you do. That would be awesome. So, yeah.
Kia ora everyone. Happy Te Reo Māori Language Week. Ko waio, ko Anau hoku ingoa, ko lele mai me ka mere wawao, ko la motoa, pea takai whara ki Amerika. My name is Anau, straight from the wonderful kingdom of Tonga. Wow, no one's feeling it. Thank you. Born in Tonga, raised here in Tamaki, and that's a little bit about who I am. Yeah, I love business. I love our people, especially our Pacific people, and I do a lot of research in that space as well. Got 4 kids, and I have twins. They're 3 years old. And so, yeah, thank you so much, Rachel and the team, for having me here.
Thank you. Joanna?
Yeah, awesome. Maloilele. My name is Joanna Bourke. I'm currently the Chief Executive Officer for Pacific Cooperation Foundation. I'm made in New Zealand, but of Pacific origin, so born and raised here in the 70s to migrant parents who came here to work in our factories back in the 70s. So I'm a child of them and also went through the Dawn Raids. So I come with a whole lot of baggage, but good baggage, not bad baggage. Yes, I'm of Tongan descent, Tongan Irish descent. Both my parents were born in Tonga from Vava'o, but have been living in Kolofa'o, and I have recently been living in Tonga as well, and came home with COVID, not with the flu, but COVID closed all the borders, so I came back home to New Zealand to see what else I can do. Through my work, a lot of my work has been in the region and connecting Aotearoa New Zealand to the 18, 19 countries that are in the moana. So that's where my work is at the moment, and I have been an entrepreneur, and when I came back to New Zealand I've taken on a full-time role as a Chief Executive Officer of a Crown entity, but I still maintain my entrepreneurial feats on the side, aka side hustle. So that's who I am, but I'm sure we'll unpack more of that as we Talanoa further. So it's great to be here and great to have a great audience as well. And I'm unfortunately not from AUT, but I'm a UIA graduate, just to put it out there.
Tēnā tātou, ko Ciccone Hakaraia-Turner tōku ingoa, he reo no Ngāti Raikawa, Ngāti Manipoto me Te Aroa. Heoi anō I te Pākio ki konei ki Tāmaki Makaurau. He tauira tuarua au, tau tuarua au ki konei ki te wānanga aronui o Tāmaki Makaurau. E whai ana I tōku tohu Pākihi. Katoa o aku aromato ai, e whakaoti hoki ahau ki te reo Māori. Kia ora everyone, my name is Ciccone. I am a second year business student here at AUT studying International Business and Strategy. And I am an aspiring entrepreneur, so I'm not currently in the entrepreneurship and innovation industry yet. I did take a paper, entrepreneurship paper last year, because I always knew that I wanted to get into this scene, but I didn't know where to start. So doing that paper was actually what helped me grow the project that I'm currently working on. I've got a little innovation project that I'm working on relating to the sports industry. And so I'm very excited to be sitting here amongst these two wahine toa so that I can also learn from their journeys and hopefully can take some of their learnings and add it to my journey as well. I was also a finalist last year in the AUT Innovation Challenge as well. So yeah, that's a little bit of my experience. I'll try and pull a little bit of that out throughout this panel conversation. Kia ora.
And you might have won that because you went to the Cook Islands. Was the only reason you couldn't take part?
Yeah. So I actually didn't. I was a finalist, but I didn't get to the final stage because I got approached for to be a what was it called?
Photography.
It was a social media person at the Pacific Islands Forum last year in the Cook Islands. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. Awesome panel, exciting. And like a good mix too, you know, like the doing, side hustle still doing, you are doing, and you know, more to do. So yeah, thank you. Okay, so I suppose it'd be good to sort of start with a bit of a like, you know, where are we at right now? Probably just go like, start from Anau, go to Ciccone. But basically like, yeah, let's not shy away, it's like pretty tough out there for businesses, tough economic times, other tough times, but I won't bring that up. And basically like how are we doing? What are things like out there? What are the challenges that we're seeing businesses face at the moment?
Yeah, so how are we doing? We're doing great. When we still got a house, you know, a roof over our head, we've got food, able to get up in the morning. I think when you grow up with nothing, any challenge, if you're in business, is a good thing. That's the kind of challenge I need. I don't need the challenge of trying to alleviate poverty in my communities. So it's a different perspective, but like in terms of the business, the organization or the company is, we've got our Kava Lounge. If you've been to the Kava Lounge, that's the commercial part of it. We also have like a research arm, so we do a lot of contracting with research work, and then we have our community arm. So we try and do like free events. For myself, having grown up being a Tongan, you know, my heart is always the community. It's always our people, so we always try and do things to bring them in. And I guess at the moment we're doing okay. We've got. We designed this like Kava G bowl. We call it a G bowl. It's not a Kava bowl, in respect and honouring our traditional Kava bowls. But that's a finalist in the Best Awards, the New Zealand Design. I don't even know how to say it. Best Awards. Very excited to be there because I just want to go and dress up.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, that's really cool. Just being able to create something and get it to that level where it's recognised. So that's kind of like our product line that we're working on, but also working on looking at how do we get investors investing into the business and what does that look like. And so that we're in conversations at the moment around that. There's so much potential with the Kava space, but I think the thing that people always forget is that we can do the Kava business, but there's got to be the respect and honour of the culture, you know, to make it last, to make it sustainable. Or else what we're seeing overseas, people are just doing these cultural things, but it never lasts. because the heart and the intention is not quite there.
Yeah.
So I think at the moment we're doing okay. We're always kind of reaching out different spaces. It's like an octopus. It's like we just grew one tentacle, the commercial shop, another tentacle, research, another tentacle, community. So it's kind of growing.
So that diversification.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
That word.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, thanks.
Cool. Joanna?
Yeah, I suppose I can speak from sort of two viewpoints, but I think generally business, it's hard out there as an entrepreneur, and when you're seeing every day businesses that are closing, that have been around for a long time, or new businesses that are opening and are not staying long, it makes you question, you know, what is it that they're not doing? And first of all, you know, I've been in the hospitality industry, and when I see restaurants closing down, it's because, you know, for a number of reasons, like costs of doing business, compliance costs today, hiring staff, taxation, the costs of doing business are high. So it makes me wonder why people don't look at those things first. And I know a lot of businesses open because people have a passion, or they see that there's a need in the market, or, you know, their friends have said, oh, you know, I think you're amazing, you should bake these cookies and sell them on Trade Me or whatever. But, you know, you're listening to people who aren't necessarily going to be your target market and aren't going to be a sustainable market. So when you look at that and use that in the context of an organisation that I run, you know, we've got to cut our costs as well. And when you're relying solely on government funding to run your organisation, and they all of a sudden pull the funding, and you're not prepared, you've got, you know, staff that you need to think about, their families that are being impacted by that. So, you know, you kind of have to always be working in the future, not we're looking at the now. And so it's tough because a lot of people do look at the now, and they spend a lot of time working in the business but not working on the business and looking at a sustainable model that will take them forward so that they can continue to keep people employed, and generate revenue or continue to provide a service. Speaking from personal, around my organisation, where, you know, we've been around for over 25 years, and we've had a big work program, and we would cater for all these different aspects in the market. What we've done in the last year since I've been CE is just really taking that down and compacting our work program and focusing on where we know we can add value and create impact for the lesser amount of dollars that we have. So it does mean that I have to talk to the staff and the team to make sure that they're having to do a little bit extra, but it's now that we're having to make those sacrifices so that we can continue to create impact and show people that in the future we're an organisation that's worth working for. So I suppose in summary, it's about being able to pivot, but also being able to think quickly on your feet about how you can adapt your business and the way you do business today, given it's not just challenges here in New Zealand or the Pacific, but the global effects on how we do business and who we do business with.
Word pivot.
Great.
Ciccone, what about you as a student, or just from your view in terms of what's going on at the moment in the economy? What do you think some of the, I say challenges, they don't have to be, what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I definitely think some of the challenges, you know, intergenerational wealth gaps is a huge challenge with our Māori and Pacific businesses, as well as limited access to traditional funding, and there are cultural barriers as well. For example, you know, a lot of Māori-oriented, our culture is very whānau-based and community-based, and sometimes we don't really see that type of structure in some of the businesses we enter as well. And so it's kind of like trying to find that line where we can bridge the gap between having that business structure but also incorporating more of a cultural business structure within it as well, and just upholding our mātāpuna and stuff like that. Yeah.
I suppose, and you sort of touched on it, I suppose actually talk about funding and like funding models. I mean, I don't know much about it, but are the models, sort of saying set up for, I don't know, Māori and Pacific businesses? Are they measured on the sort of, use the word metrics that Māori and Pacific are about? What does it look like in terms of sort of those funding models? I mean, what are you finding in your sort of?
We're not a funded company.
Yeah.
We're just purely commercial. If we do get any funding, it's for any community stuff we do.
Okay.
And so we make it free for everyone who attends, and then that pays for our food and koha to any speakers that we have. But in terms of if I'm putting on my research hat, just doing some work at the moment, and I know that the funding, some of the large philanthropy groups are really looking into this. And currently the conversation is around how do we go deeper and longer with the established Pacific service providers that we have, instead of just funding the newest, shiniest thing that comes along. And there's a lot of, some of those spaces are really starting to, some of these funders are really starting to understand the importance of, if I'm just talking from a Pacific community perspective, Pacific design, Pacific led by Pacific for Pacific, which hasn't been a thing, I think, previously, but there's a real look into that.
Anything else to add? I suppose I'm sort of thinking like there's potentially a shift in an opportunity to really sort of lean into, that and what that might look like going forward. So that's exciting. Yeah. So as we sort of, and I suppose we're talking about, based on what you've shared, in a way we're talking about resilience. I sort of wanted to find out a bit more about some of the sort of solutions or innovations that we're seeing out there. Probably touched on it a little bit, but really what makes Māori and Pacific businesses unique? What's our sort of point of difference? Should we start with you, Ciccone?
So the changes that we're seeing, I think, are quite positive. And I guess a lot more Māori businesses, from what I'm seeing, is that we are utilising our social network a lot more, which is, it's definitely, it's very Māori of us in regards to, and Pacifica of us in regards to, we broadcast what we do, right? We don't always go one-to-one and talk to people. It's definitely a community initiative. We have different social media accounts like Hidden Figures who are, they're showing their financial journey. And it's not exactly like giving financial advice, but it's more so they're just sharing what they're doing and they're inspiring other Māoris to come with them. So in a way, it's kind of like it's a belonging type of thing, and it's not just we're doing it for ourselves, but more of we're taking our community with us and trying to uplift us all as one people. There was a wānanga that I went to, a forum that I went to called, it was around the Pairangi Indigenous Forum, and it was a forum where a lot of Māori entrepreneurs and innovators and Pacifica as well come together, and they shared their journeys, their challenges, and it was a really great way that we were able to wānanga with each other. A lot of different people turned up, and we were able to just network with different people in different industries and share with each other what was going right for them and what was going wrong, and we were able to just provide solutions for each other. So again, that goes back to our concept as Māori around wānanga as well. So I think that's another solution that Māori businesses are using to help mitigate any challenges that they're facing.
And it's that community piece, like, that's just ingrained in being about the community, being about the village, bringing everyone along with. So I suppose, it's quite, say, unique or, something that is really dear to us. So, Joanna, how about you?
Yeah, I think, after working in the region and then coming back home to New Zealand and seeing how Māori and Indigenous business are conducting business, there is, we have these values that we carry with us that we often think we don't need to use them when we're conducting business, but values around reciprocity and respect and mana are things that are in us that we've sometimes often forget to turn on when we're doing business. So when we're doing business with each other, and when I talk about Māori doing business with Māori or Pacifica doing business with Pacifica, the transactional journey is a lot longer. Why? because we want to build a relationship first with our customer or whoever it is that we are dealing with. So that it's not just about, I'm going to do a transaction, I'm going to sell you a cookie. It's, I want to get to know who you are. I want to know where you're from. I want to see if whether or not there are any similarities between you and I before we even sit down and start to do business. And I think that is a superpower that we as Pacific people have that we often forget to turn on. Are our values that we bring to the table, values that we're born with, values that are indoctrinated into us as we're growing up. We've got to bring them into the business world and use them, because it is another way of doing business. It's no longer just a transaction. We meet, we exchange, money in exchange for service. It's let's sit down, let's Talanoa like what we're doing today, and let's see how I can actually sell you more than a cookie. I can come to you with a solution because I understand your whole ethos, your whole ethic, and why it is that you want to connect with me. And I think that's the innovation part around how we do business as tangata moana and tangata whenua, is it's around the relationships. And when you've got that mana, the respect, the reciprocity, what can I do for them? What can they do for me? And I think when you have that, it's powerful. And that's the innovation that we're starting to see today with a lot of our our younger generation, is that social media is powerful, and you talk about social networks. That is the most powerful thing, because when they get to know each other, they can all activate and actually do business on a genuine and authentic level, which goes beyond commercial.
Yeah, what they said. Absolutely agree with everything that our other two panelists have said. Our culture is everything, that is what sets us apart. Me being Tongan, always been proud since day one, and now to be doing business in the kava space. A lot of people, when we first started, they were like, oh man, you're crazy. They almost pity me. It was like, oh, a brown girl with a dream from South Auckland. But, going back to just really understanding and really being sure of who you are and what you bring to the table, and that as in like who you are culturally, that's really, I feel like that's what's really helped us move into this space. And it's always been there, right? Like kava's always been there, the practice of it, but it just, I think that was that believing in who you are culturally, in your language and how you dress and how you, all the cultural practices that you engage with that makes you who you are, and bringing that to the table helped us just open up this space that wasn't really there but has always been there. And I was just thinking another thing that's cool is that once you are in business, the transactions are not always about money. So, for example, I have this young Samoan girl, she runs like writing groups and her, some writing groups and stuff. And so she came to me, she was like, hey, I really like the space, how much is it to hire it, to use it? And I asked her, hey, so is this personal, or are you getting funded? And she said it's just self-funded. So I said to her, okay, let's instead of paying to hire the venue, why don't you just write stuff for me? So when you do your social media stuff, just tag us and stuff, and then you can use it for free, and that's the exchange. And I love that being in business, you're able to do that, of course within means, right? Because you still got to pay your bills and all that stuff. And I was just thinking about what Joe was saying about while we bring all this great stuff from our culture and who we are and the passion and stuff, the realities are really real. Like once that provisional tax, GST, everything else comes in, like you have to be really equipped to understand how do you deal with that, and all that technical learning that comes with it.
True,
it needs to match the passion as well. So yeah.
And it's, I suppose as well, like even getting started, you might still be, still have that full-time job to start that, that kaupapa, to fund it, call it a side hustle and then turn it into a full-time business, or it might not even be that. It might just stay the side hustle, just something you're really passionate about. So yeah, because it is, it is real in terms of you got to pay those bills. So yeah, I also think it's really cool at the moment too. Like we're talking about social media, but there's so many cool businesses out there. And it's actually really cool. I think like we want to be wearing the stuff from, from our, Pacific cousins, our Māori cousins, and because you just know that the product or whatever it is you're engaging in is authentic, and it's just real nice that we can represent at the moment. I suppose even with that, and on that sort of frame too, this whole, Māori buying Māori products, Pacific buying Pacific products, that's not essentially what's going on, but I suppose for non-Māori and Pacific, engaging with Māori and Pacific businesses, I suppose, how do we, take everybody on the journey with us? And especially with you, and now with the Kava Lounge as well, having, your customer base, who are they? Are they just, Pacific, or what does that look like? But I suppose sorry, it's not on the questions, but...
It's not on the list.
Yeah. But just throwing it out there, because I suppose I just sort of want to open it up. We've got a real diverse room here. And, this isn't, this isn't just for Māori and Pacific. And I think, again, about how everybody can sort of come on the journey and buy the things and go to the Kava Lounge and buy, all of that sort of stuff. So, I sort of want to maybe touch on that if there's any thoughts throwing it out there.
Yeah. Oh, well, of course, I'm a business. Everyone's welcome.
If you're paying,
but in all seriousness, the beauty about the Kava Lounge and that is that we're presenting something about, one of our cultural taonga from the Pacific that everyone can come in and engage with. So if we think about if I just think about the Pacific pay gap and all the workplace discrimination and all that kind of stuff that I read or I write about and research, how do we combat that so that it's not us against them, right? And so that's where the Kava Lounge, I feel like it's like, okay, we just present something, we love it, we celebrate it, and it's here, and then everyone can come in, and that's how you can start breaking down those barriers or those, unconscious biases or those stereotypes that we have of one another. But honestly, to really experience it, you just have to become a Kava Lounge, honestly. Just come through 7 days a week from 4 p.m. But yeah, it's really hard to describe. It's a space we don't, it's not just for Pacific, it's for everyone. So if you come in on any given day, you'll find anyone and everyone there. So that's the beauty of, I guess, doing business, and if it's a cultural thing, man, we're so hospitable. That's part and parcel of who we are. We love to welcome people, and that's just part of what we do. So it's natural, But does that even answer your question?
I think so, yeah. I just sort of think, it's sort of that whole I don't know, people sometimes are like, oh, I'm not Māori, so therefore I can't buy that product or whatever. So it's sort of, that, I was just sort of throwing that thought out there. It might not be a thing, but even me as Pacific, I'm like, oh, I don't know, is it weird if I'm wearing that Māori,
I can add to that. Korero, from Pacific Cooperation Foundation's perspective, back in 2022, we launched the first ever survey that had been done where we went and asked New Zealanders, and that's you and I, anyone who identifies as a New Zealander, what their perceptions are of the Pacific. And we did that to basically help Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade understand if whether or not the policies that they are doing around the Pacific are making a difference. What we found from doing that piece of research is that New Zealanders don't know a lot about the Pacific. And when I say the Pacific, they know that tourism is probably the number one thing. A lot of New Zealanders don't know that the Pacific export product, and New Zealanders purchase, fruit and vegetables, handicrafts. They didn't know that they send, labour from the Pacific to come and work in the orchards to pick fruit. There's a lot that we New Zealanders don't actually understand and know about the Pacific. And so what I have done since I've been at PCF with this particular report is actually been engaging with industry and engaging with employers, engaging with academia to say, hey, look, here's a piece of research that says we need to do a lot more to engage our Māori, our Pacific, our Indigenous, our ethnic communities so that we're not just working and taking the services from our employees, but we're actually engaging with them on a level that is educational so that we all understand the different nuances of our different cultures. So, you know, when you talk about the products, you know, we've got different ethnicities working in a number of different, you know, employers around New Zealand. How do we empower them? And when I say empower them, how do we empower those employers to include as part of their HR policies that they're actually engaging more authentically with their staff, whether it's through their language weeks or whether or not they're doing shared meals, or, you know, once a month they focus on one of the countries that is working within their organisation. And I think when you start to encourage that sort of behaviour and those cultures within a workplace, you start to see the change. I'm not saying it's going to happen overnight, but slowly but surely we'll start to see some of these organisations asking, you know, okay, if you're Tongan, apart from your food and mate ma'a Tonga, what else do the Tongans bring here? You know, and it could be around jewellery, fashion, all that sort of stuff, but we need to encourage it. And I think if you're in an organisation, you've got to encourage it yourself. So it works both ways. So that's all I can add to that, is that there is some research that says, you know, New Zealanders want to learn more about the Pacific beyond tourism and being able to say bula. Yeah.
Ciccone, is there anything you might want to add?
Oh, I think
You're good, yeah, covered, yeah. You know, it's a sort of wildfire, just sort of random thought of Rachel's. And actually on that too, like, you know, the term Māori and the term Pacific is super generalised. You know, there are differences and like loads of diversity, you know, iwi, hapu, all of the many islands of the Pacific. So I think that's something that's, you know, really important to acknowledge. It is in my notes as well. It was going to be on a question, but thought it makes sense to add it now. But, you know, we are so different, and there is so much sort of, I suppose, education around that, because we all do get sort of lumped into, you know, these groups. So, okay, what is my next question? Gone off track, Rachel. Much of that. Is it question 3? Are we 3? Okay. So, how have and we, I don't know if we're repeating, but anyway, let's try and change it up a little bit. So it's yeah, how have Māori and Pacific values influenced your approach to entrepreneurship and your business practices? And then what's our point of difference? Do we have any? Did I ask that question?
I think we've answered
I
that.
know. I feel like it just come up naturally.
Our point of difference is us.
Yeah, this is it. And all of our differences.
And sorry, just to add on to that as well.
Yeah.
What I've been seeing recently as someone that's outside the industry is I've seen a lot of business owners, particularly Māori and Pacifica, go back to their iwi, their communities, their islands, and they start to tap into their own resources as well. So a few examples that I've got that I know of is when I went over to the Pacific Islands Forum, I got to interview 2 entrepreneurs over there. One of them was Susan Susan Tuoro. She came up with her own, she runs a premium skincare brand over in the Cook Islands. And her main resource is coconuts. And because that's the resource that she had in her backyard. And the knowledge that she'd actually consumed was through the stories that her grandmother used to tell her about. And so she was able to turn that knowledge into her startup business. And I also got to interview Mi'i Taukia. And he uses animation film, to tell the stories of the Cook Islands and their people. And he also used to run workshops for rangatahi in the Cook Islands to feed them skills around animation as well. And also, one of my aunties, Auntie Livy Hakaraia, she started up a charitable trust called Māori Land. And so some of you guys may have seen in the Herald lately that Shrek is going to be translated into Te Reo Māori. That was actually in partnership with Māori Land, which is the company that my auntie owns.
Yeah, your auntie.
And so just as a wrap up of all those examples, narratives are important because stories, people take different things through stories, right? And as tangata whenua and as tangata moana, we've always been orators, so we've always been storytellers. So, and I think I guess that's a point of difference that we have as a people.
Yeah.
And I think through those stories we find that sense of belonging within business as well. So yeah, that's my thoughts there.
Yes. Yeah, and actually thank you for touching on that, because you're right, the stories. I suppose if we do go back to, we go and talk to our, Māori business owners, our Pacific business owners, like what's the story behind the business? There's always, I'm sure, a beautiful story or connection as to, how that came about. So thank you, Ciccone, for bringing that up. Yeah. And actually, again, I'll go, I suppose in terms, I'll throw one out, because maybe it'll talk to stories. In terms of like your own journeys, in terms of any mentors or special people that have inspired you, would you like to maybe share a little bit about whoever they are?
Definitely hands down, my number one mentor is my dad. We moved here in the 80s, and he always went back to Tonga and did kava, sold second-hand goods, and we survived in Aotearoa like that. And it's funny, like I always think back to that, I never heard them say they were business people. They were just surviving, they were just looking after the family. And when I think about it, my dad, he'll always say, do business because the sky's the limit. And having worked a 9 to 5 and being in the space where where I am now, I can definitely say that that is true. And when the sky's the limit, your mind is able to just stretch and think creatively. And with those creative thinking, you can just move in spaces that you can't sometimes when you're in a 9 to 5. But my dad definitely, he's like 82 now. And I love him dearly. Part of doing the kava is actually just holding on to all those memories that I have of him, my parents, and just not wanting to see them be in this place in their life now where you start to see that transition into the next whanua. And so the kava for me it is puke puke whanua, like holding on to culture and heritage, but it's also puke puke manatu, holding on to memories, and those memories are of my father, who's number one, my favorite supporter.
Okay. Thank you.
I suppose mine is also family. My mother and my aunties and my grandmother, because they were forever looking for ways to make money. For mum, she had a full-time job, but then she'd come home and bake cakes, and she'd bake things to sell to other people on the weekends. So, and then, my aunties back in Tonga, the husbands would be out working, and then during the day, after all the kids had gone to school, they'd be out making roti parcels or little lunch boxes to go and sell at the office, so they can make a little bit of money. So I've always been surrounded by women who've wanted to do better for their families and help their husbands or the males in the family out who are traditionally out there making for their own families. So I've always been empowered by women who are out there doing things, and like Anau has said, it's they're not doing business. They've not ever seen it as being business. They've just seen it as that's their way of, that's their role in the community, that's their role in the family, to supply food or to do something. So it's never ever been seen as a business. It's only when we've gone to school, we've come back and we've said, hey, do you know you're doing a business? Do you pay wages? Do you pay tax? What are you doing with the money? All that sort of thing. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm quite similar as well. My parents have really been my backbone for me. I'm the first generation of my whānau to actually go through uni. And so, they've really been motivating me, pushing me through to actually complete my degree. And also my grandparents as well. So they were previously business owners back when they lived in Otaki, but also when they lived here. Back before Commercial Bay was Commercial Bay, they owned a hairdressers back in the mall. So I like to think that their mātauranga was kind of passed down to me through my genetics, because and also my auntie Libby, like I mentioned, these are just all people that I like to look up with and look up to, and they just keep making sure that I'm on my path, that I don't sway. So
Thank you. Well, I'm glad we asked that question. I love hearing those stories. So So we are getting close to the Q&A part. So before we move on, I just sort of want to conclude my part of the Korero by asking a very important question. What advice would you give to students and aspiring entrepreneurs to start their own ventures? And a supplement question, what are your hopes and aspirations for our people, Māori and Pacific, in business or for getting into business?
My advice, I was a student here, by the way, at business school. Definitely be realistic about what you're doing. Like, again, understand those stuff that you don't want to understand, like the tax stuff is really, really important. PAYE is really, really important. All the ugly stuff that you don't want to know about, know it. And be realistic, but also don't let anyone hold you back. You know, when we started, people were like, they really did feel sorry for us. Oh, look at them trying out at like Victoria Park Market, what a dream. But 5 years later, you know, it's like, I'm still here. And so you really, really need to back yourself when there's all the distraction and the noises and then there's everyone's opinions and, you know, all of a sudden everyone's like a business advisor and they're giving you business advice that you didn't ask for, but you have to be really, really focused and really certain about what you're doing. So that's what I would say.
Oh.
Hopes and aspiration.
Yeah.
For what?
For our
Close the
people.
Pacific pay gap.
Yeah.
That's my hope and aspiration for our people.
Yeah.
Let's close the Pacific pay gap.
Aye.
I suppose could be one thing I think is make sure that you do your research and, you know, answer that foundational question when you're thinking about going into businesses. Is your business solving a problem? Make sure you identify that problem, because if there's an opportunity, then make sure there's a problem that you're solving with whatever it is that you want to set up. Because when you do that, then you know you've got a sustainable business beyond 3, 6, 9, 12 months. My aspirations is, I'm hopeful for, for business and entrepreneurship in New Zealand, but also in the region, that it's starting to look more diverse and that we're seeing a lot more different people getting into business or taking on the risks, because, you know, we haven't spoken about risk, but when you do go into entrepreneurship, there is a risk involved. And when you can identify those risks and know how to mitigate them, then you're on a great path. And, you know, I have hope, and I'm excited about how the landscape around entrepreneurship is starting to look here.
Love that.
Yeah, I guess as a rangatai that originally didn't know how to start when it came to entrepreneurship, I'd say, well, one of the whakatauki that I kind of live by is to be the best ancestor you can be. So just think about when you have mokopuna, when you have tamariki, how do you want them to see you? How do you want to inspire them to want to dream big? So yeah, that's something that I kind of like to think of. But also in terms of where I aspire, where my aspirations for Māori businesses is, well, it would be really cool if Māori and Pacifica own the New Zealand economy. That's my aspiration. Yeah. Kia ora.
Kia ora.
Yeah.
They will.
Watch this space. Watch this
Yep.
space.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, well, I'm going to hand over to Laura Keall-Hall. This is now your time to be able to ask any of those burning questions. There will be a roaming mic. But I think Laura might have some questions that she's been thinking of.
Yes.
I'll hand over. Do you want to
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
Hey, hey.
Oh.
Hey, hey.
Oh.
You'll have to excuse me because even though I've been in the Pacific space for a very long time, Pacific business space for a very long time, I tend to organize events and actually get facilitators, hire facilitators to do these things. So this is probably my very first facilitation. So anyway, I would like to pay tribute and acknowledge the original custodians of this beautiful country of Aotearoa, our tangata whenua, kia ora koutou katoa toa. Kia orana, I would like to pay homage to my Cook Islands heritage. And Talofalava, Maloso for Moa Malange Ma. I am a proud daughter of Samoa. I was born and raised there. I came to New Zealand when I was 18 years old. And that was a very long time ago, but I'm not going to mention, so I don't want you to calculate how old I am right now. And Maloelele, Nisa Bulavinaka, and warm Pacific greetings to you all. My name is Laura Kyle Hall, and I am the founder and the owner and the chief executive of the Pacific Business Hub. We are not an organization, we are a business ourselves. We're a company, and we turned 5 years old earlier this year. So I do understand the challenges that businesses go through in general, but also the challenges that our Pacific peoples go through in business. I'll talk a little bit about the Pacific Business Hub as well, so you know what we actually do. I guess, like what our speakers have said this evening, you know, most of us, or some of us, actually go into business to solve a problem. So this was a problem I saw many years ago when I was actually a business manager at BNZ, where there were no spaces that would actually accommodate you know, Pacific businesses, lack of support in general for businesses, but because of my community, I saw that there was, lack of the support and for them. And also, are people not knowing where to go to get the help and the support or the advisory services. So, long story short, I started the Samoa Business Network back in 2012, but I was also working at the bank because I used to run those events, and I did not come across many Pacific businesses, even Māori businesses, come through into those spaces. So I thought I'll start with that and see how we go and look at developing all our other island, Pacific Island networks as well. We did that, and all of that work has actually led to the establishment and has informed the work of the Pacific Business Hub. So we're actually, our vision is very simple, is to enable, empower, and enrich. What does that actually even mean? The enablement part of it is the actual physical space. Now there is a space where our businesses can go to and conduct their business activities. So we're a co-working shared office space that actually provides different options for our people who don't necessarily have the budgets to actually lease spaces. The second part, which is the empowerment part, is the advisory services and sharing of information. So if anyone wants to start a business, they can come and see us and we'll show them, we'll tell them, we'll show them how to start a business and be there for them as well. Very simple, because I believe that when we enable and empower people, it enriches their lives. So our message is very simple. And I would like to take this opportunity, because I got a lot of questions myself to ask our panels. I just want to acknowledge the three of you for taking this time to be here with us tonight. And also I'd like to acknowledge my friend Anau. I've known her for a very long time. I've followed her journey and her struggles in business. And I feel like a lot of my questions are going to be very directed to you, but you know, Joanna and Ciccone, please feel free to so like I like to actually draw out a lot of the, I guess, the challenging stuff in business. So last night we actually did an event similar to this. So it's kind of like those questions that were asked last night, I'm going to be asking you. Okay, in business, support systems are very important. Who has been a key support system and or mentor for you on your business journey? And how have they impacted your business or what you do?
My dad. Definitely my dad, but if I think about like professional mentoring, it never really worked out, because then I get these mentors, like, you know, there was a lot of support during COVID for businesses, and part of that support was people got mentors, and it didn't really work out. I felt like they just didn't really understand what I was on about, or they'll come with like preconceived ideas, and then they just imposed that on you rather than really understanding what you're about and how you operated. But other than that, this place called Pacific Business Hub, Laura Kyle Hall, nah. Yeah, Laura, obviously, you supported since day one as well. There's been like Pacific Business Trust, MPP. They provide like programs and resources and stuff like that. But if it's an ongoing, no, not really. Just me, myself, and the Lord above.
Oh,
Contribute?
yeah, I thought we were having a break. You only want to talk to her. Yeah, I think throughout my whole life as an entrepreneur, but also professionally, I have surrounded myself with mentors who, you know, I've just gone up to people and asked them for help, but also just more advice, but also making sure that I'm not seen as taking advice and not giving anything back. So it's around building that relationship and building that trust with someone. And I have a couple of mentors who've been with me, you know, right from when I've been in my 20s, and I'm still friends with them. And I contact them whenever I'm, you know, just want to bounce some ideas. I think it's good to have a community, or, you know, a couple or a few people that you can go to when you want to bounce ideas off or get advice from. And they're ones that will tell you the truth, because sometimes mentors need to tell you the hard truth, because sometimes you can be quite wishy-washy about what it is that you want to do, and you know, you need those. So yeah, I've got a number of people that I have as mentors that have become more lifelong friends now. So I think that's really important, as well as surrounding yourself with the right people.
Yeah. Whaftai lava. Now here's a follow-on question.
Okay.
And I guess this kind of talks more about the tall poppy syndrome. Were you surprised that some people, organizations, or family members did not support you?
Yeah.
And how did you, you know, deal with that?
100%. You know, sometimes the closest people to you are the ones who can't support, and it's complex. You know, like family situations are, you know, there's a lot that goes on there. But yeah, definitely, I'm surprised at the people who have supported, and then the ones who have not. Yeah, that's a thing. And then on top of that, if you're like just very in what you're doing, there's people can feel some sort of way sometime, you know. But that's what I meant about going back to the first conversation with Rachel. You just got to be focused on what you're doing and not let things get to you. Yeah, but that's part and parcel of what comes with being in business and everything.
Yeah, I asked that question because a lot of the businesses that I've consulted with, like their families are probably the last people that actually support them in their pursuit of business. So even for me as well, I've experienced that. So thank you for that. I'm going to ask questions, and I'll actually give it out to our audience to ask questions. So I'm going to give it out to our audience if there's any burning questions that you have from those questions that I've asked. And please wait for the mic to come around to you. Does anyone have any questions?
Right. Bula everyone. So my name is Sanjogita and I'm from Fiji. Currently a Masters of Applied Finance student here in AUT. So thank you so much, the panelists, for the session. And just a quick question from me. Do you think the cultures and heritage and Maori or Pacifica influences that is brought initially from the islands, is it being preserved? And you know, you mentioned that there is unique values that you apply to the business practices, which makes it so unique. Do you think this is being lost over the years and over the generations, you know, throughout? Thank you.
Okay, I'll answer that. Sanjogita, thank you for the question. When you talk about our cultures and what we've brought over, I think what's happened is we've seen a watering down of our culture over the years, and that watering down is so that we can fit in with the cultures that are here in New Zealand. But we are starting to see, I suppose, through the language weeks that are being celebrated, and last year there were 2 new languages added to the language weeks. government does see that there is a place for the difference in our culture here in New Zealand. But I think I'm a child of parents who came to New Zealand from Tonga and said, you are not going to learn anything about your Tongan culture, your Tongan heritage, or your Tongan language, because you do not need that here to survive. And, you know, much to my parents' disgust when I told them that I wanted to move to Tonga and live there and learn my language and learn my culture, it's only now that they started to realise that they perhaps made a bit of a mistake by not instilling that into us from when we were young, because they wanted to fit in so that they could, you know, make, you know, work, and made sure that we weren't made to feel isolated. But things have changed now, and, you know, we've had some great Māori and Pacific people who've paved a way for us to be able to celebrate our languages and cultures today. So we're seeing a revival, and, you know, spaces like this where we start to see more Māori and Pacific business people, or just people in general, doing excellent things, that we need to put them on a pedestal, because you know, they've had to fight through adversity to get to where they are today around protecting our language and culture.
Anyone else before I ask my next question?
You two answers.
Kia ora and talofa lava, and thank you again for your inspiring and experience and sharing your stories. My question is, how much money do you make? What's your salary? And how long did it take you to get there? No, I'm just kidding. It's not the I'm just kidding.
Don't pay him.
Just wanted to wake you up. My real question is, what have you found to be very useful or effective strategies for growing a business or organization?
Who would like to take that?
What is the most effective strategy for growing a business? Definitely relationships. Everything that is our currency is relationships. Being relational, because that spills out to your customers, the people you deal with, your families, your home life, everything. But the most effective strategy, honestly, go on holiday. If you're an entrepreneur, you're on 24/7, right? Well-being is like, man, that's crazy. Sometimes you get into these dark clouds, because it's like, we're talking about this, Joe, like, it's a lonely journey, and people don't understand the pressures. Like, there's no steady income coming if you're not working, if you're not out there putting yourself out there, right? But honestly, just go on holiday. Go on holiday, just disappear, turn off your social media, because when that's right and everything else inside of you, then everything else will be right. But if you're not right, oh, mate, too many close experiences. Nah. Yeah, but yeah, go on holiday, preferably to Tonga.
Oh. Yeah, I did that too. That's my business.
Can I just add to that from someone who is literally in the beginning stages of starting up? Your network is definitely something you should tap into. A lot of it is who you know as well. So go out to like networking events, get to know a lot of different people, connect with them on LinkedIn, because they might know someone else who might have the solution to whatever you need. So yeah, and keep in contact with them too. If you just, you know, every month or so, give them a message, ask them to catch up, because it's all about, you know, keeping your base, keeping that base there to help you grow. Just like what these wahine have been saying about having those mentors, the people that you meet at networking events, they can stand as your mentors as well. You can always go back and contact them, stuff like that. So yeah.
And discipline. I think discipline is a strategy that you need to have as a business owner. The discipline to be able to keep on top of things, so that things aren't running away and you have an excuse to the tax man when he wants to be paid GST or PAYE. You keep, you know, if you're disciplined, you don't find yourself in those situations. And, you know, it's having those weekly check-ins, monthly check-ins, and, you know, if you're a sole trader, you know, get an accountant, get a good accountant who can be that person that keeps you honest.
And if I can add to that, I think It's having your structures and your processes right from the beginning. I know that a lot of our Pacific businesses, they tend to kind of like start. They just start, but don't actually make sure that they have the structures right and the processes in place. And that's where the Pacific Business Hub comes in as well. So we understand that there's it's a lonely journey out there, but what we're saying, it doesn't have to be that way. There's the space that you can come to and you can get that help. You can be surrounded by, similar or people that relate to your journey. And I take the point about networking as well. So we're very big on that. And I advise anyone that's actually looking at starting a business, going into business, to find your tribe, find those spaces that actually you can relate with the people there who are there to support you and stuff. Thank you. Was there a question here?
Kia ora. Hello? Hello?
It's not working.
Hello? Kia ora. My question is for our rangatahi, Ciccone. I was really interested to hear about your innovation idea and that competition, and really great answers tonight. Thank you.
Yeah, cool. So last year, it was advertised around the business school about the innovation challenge, and because I did the entrepreneurship class, it was really, we were kind of motivated, but our teacher really made us encourage us to do it, and it was a bit of a struggle at first, because I think the hardest thing for me was coming up with what I wanted to do. It literally took me I think it was 2 weeks before the deadline before I actually figured out what I wanted to do, and that was just by talking to a lot of different people, researching online, just going through my feed as well. And I wanted to make sure that it was something that I was passionate about, because if you're passionate about it, it'll make you want to keep doing it, right? If you're not passionate about your project, then you'll probably just give it up over the first month. And so we had to complete, it was like I forget the name of it because it's not coming to me right now, but it was a canvas.
Business model canvas?
I think so, yes. And we had to do a lot of in-depth research about the problem, our target audience, what our solution is, how we will be different from everyone else in the market. So it was very detailed. We just had to submit that into the email address that was sent to us. It was, once we got accepted as a finalist, we had to go through a thorough presentation style, business presentation style. And so we had to pitch our idea to people who were already in the startup business. But along that process, we also got given a mentor, so that was really helpful as well. Unfortunately, I didn't make it to the actual presentation day because, like I said earlier, I had to go to the Cook Islands, which, I mean, wasn't a bad thing. But yeah, it was, the innovation that I came up with was in relation to the sports industry. So I grew up around netball, and I volunteer around netball as well in the recovery section. So one of our main forms of recovery is ice baths. What I had noticed though at different tournaments, particularly international tournaments, is that we would fill these huge buckets up with water, and they would have to get emptied after every team used them. And for me, that was like, well, that's a lot of water wastage, right? And so I tried to come up with an idea that would reduce the water wastage, but also keep the concept there of the physical recovery. So yeah, I'm still working on that at the moment. Still networking with different people to try and see where I can go with it. But yeah, I don't know, maybe in a couple of years you'll see me in the market. Keep an eye out.
Awesome.
Thank you for that. So feel free to actually ask any follow-on questions from my questions when they answer them. I know that we do have, I think, about how many more minutes, Narisha? 10 minutes, so we'll make it quick. Maybe not. Okay, this is probably an out-of-it question. well, for us Pacific, it probably isn't. You know, as Pacific peoples, you know, we're religious. Some of us are religious, some of us are spiritual. How has faith ever helped you in your business journey?
Yeah, definitely. It's 2 Timothy 7, 1 Timothy 2:7. God does not give you a spirit of fear, of timidity, but of confidence, power, and sound mind. And I live off those teachings, and that definitely drives me when no one else believes in what I'm doing. Yep.
I'll take a different tact, and I see church. I have a strong faith, but that aside, I see church as a massive opportunity to sell your product or sell your service.
Ooh, I like that.
So when I first started off on my entrepreneurship journey in Tonga, when I set up my agency, the first place I went to was church. Why? Because I've already got that trust with my congregation and my community, so I could test my service and the way I was pitching my product to church. So I have a stronger faith because of that.
Amen.
Well, for my innovation, I kind of looked towards the spiritual sense a lot more in regards to like Te Taiao and Ngā Atua Māori. That's a concept that I like to take with me heavily because I grew up with those mātāpuna, with those concepts. So, and I guess that's how I try to keep my authenticity with Te Ao Māori. You know, because we are kai tiaki o Te Taiao. So I think in that sense, that's how I try and incorporate into my entrepreneurship journey. Yeah.
Thank you for that. I always like to ask that question because, you know, for me, this journey has been very much a journey of faith as well. Some of the things that I've actually experienced over the last 5 years, I cannot explain. Like, it doesn't even translate to what the books look like and stuff like that. So I just wanted to ask that question. I'm not a religious person. I would like to say that I'm spiritual. So yeah, thank you very much for that. Does anyone have any follow-up question on that? Or no? Moving on. Okay, being in business is tough, with many unexpected twists and turns that can happen on your journey that can throw you off. And sometimes you may have felt like you wanted to quit. Oh, I've wanted to quit many times. How have you overcome these challenges and maintain your motivation and resilience?
Yeah. When we first were looking for like a venue for the Kava Lounge, we wanted to be in Grey Lynn, Ponsonby, Parnell, or somewhere in town, just for representation. And every landlord that we would go and visit, they said no. I didn't even know landlords would say no. I thought they would be happy. They want like someone to occupy their space. And they would just be like, oh, I don't know about that. I don't know if my brother's partner will be interested in that because of the kava aspect, right? And that, instead of just shutting down, I was even more determined to be like, nah, that's not right. Like, what is your reason for not wanting kava? You want another cafe? So yeah, I think, you know, so I think the thing, you know, like, yeah, that was something we experienced like right from the get-go. And ever since then, you know, we've been like battling MPI, you know, government agencies on like just regulations around kava. And then we have like underground battles that I can't talk about because that's like the other side of, I don't know, light and dark. The battles are real, but what I can say is that when one door closes, another door will open, you know, like it's like the kava, you know, the kava root is quite bitter when you drink it, but then in order to get to the sweetness of the kava, and that's the effects and the talanoa and the relationships and the meaningful discussion, you have to go through the bitterness of the taste of it. And so I always think, you know, you have to go through obstacles and challenges to get to that sweet spot or to the blessing. So yeah. That was a religious thing, a blessing. Would you like to?
Yeah, I've been through cyclones, and I've been through, you know, global financial crisis, obviously COVID. Perseverance is something that I have because if I truly believe that I or my business or I in a way can touch or help people, I persevere with that. In addition to having a really strong faith in God. and also a really strong family support and network that can back me and tell me that, am I doing the right thing or not? So yeah, it's a combination of things, but if you persevere and you truly believe, you will get what you want.
Did you want to add to that?
Yeah, there was a time when I was drawing up my innovation canvas where I actually got stumped on my original idea, and I think what I ended up doing was taking a step back for maybe like a few days, just to get rid of that block and then come back to things. So I think that's what really helped me, because if you're too much into something, although I guess sometimes you have to be, but in terms of the plan, if you're too much into something, then it can just cloud you and cloud your judgment a lot more, and you become very frustrated. So I think for me, pulling away a little bit, like you said, going on holiday, it helps to just give you that fresh mind and keeps you persevering through it, and wanting to come back to it again as well. So yeah.
Lava, does anyone have any questions? Mike?
Quite a few questions.
Kia ora. First of all, thank you for sharing all those insights in this Korero. My question is, so you have mentioned that business is not something that you do for 9 hours a day and then it gets over. It's a 24 hours, 365 days thing. So how do you take care of your well-being while being a businesswoman? And what advice do you have for entrepreneurs on that?
Nah, I don't take care of my well-being. Sorry, no advice there.
See, I like the honesty.
Yeah, like maybe just recently going on holiday. Like you don't want to get to the point where you just want to check out, because then that's when you know it's like gone too far. And just reminding yourself, like the business, the work never ends. So it doesn't matter if you try and overcome, do all of it, it's never going to stop. There's always an email inquiry. There's also always a workshop to like draft up and send to someone. There's always a research contract. There's always customers who are going to have, to come through and might give you feedback, and you have to deal with that, through the shop. But the reality is, if I'm completely honest, for me, I don't do a good job taking care of myself and my well-being. Is this a counselling session? No. But you have to really, really try and force yourself. Maybe this year I've just started taking breaks. Like I'll go away, like I go on holiday and I'll come back just to like unwind. But when you get into it, you're so passionate about what you do that 5 years later, it just becomes this habit. You just keep going. But thinking about what Joe was saying, having those really good people and networks that can check in on you and can be honest and be like, you know what, you need to stop. Even if you're like, no, don't tell me what to do. But you need that, because that's just the reality from my own experience. Eh? Praise the Lord, I'm still here.
You'll be here for a long time.
A long time. Amen.
Health is wealth. You take care of your health, the wealth will flow. And I've learnt the hard way, where when I started off as an entrepreneur, I actually collapsed. And I was told that if I continue the road that I was continuing on, I won't be around to see my daughter reach her 5th birthday. So listen to your body, take care of yourself, eat well, exercise, and I can't stress how important sleep is. So, you get your sleep in, you wake up, you're refreshed, you're able to really concentrate and focus on your business. And if you don't have that as a mantra, then you shouldn't be in business.
Yeah. Question? We'll probably have time, well, we don't have time, but we're going to try and get around to everybody, okay? Since I'm sitting up here, so I will own the time up here, okay?
Thank you. Testing. Hi, Talofa, Monica here. So my question is actually not my question. My friend here is too shy to speak. Jessica Dunn from Vertical Horizon, everybody. So her question was, Where do you stand on appreciation versus appropriation? And if I could word it in a different way, more how have you addressed it if someone's ever accused you in your business of doing that?
Appreciation versus appropriation. Yeah, that's a good question. I think the community speaks for itself. You know, when you're doing things and you're leading with good intentions and a pure heart, that stuff, others will see it, others will notice it. And if you're not, people will call that out, especially if you're, in my case, like if you're in a space that is a cultural practice like kava, there's no tolerance for that. And I don't know, it's always, I don't really think about it because it's always just been a part of who I was growing up. We just did kava. This has just been an extension of like our family being in kava. So I don't feel like I never ever have to prove myself because me being in Tongan is enough. My culture, my story and our family, that's enough, and I'm confident in that. But obviously, it's also important to question because nowadays it's not enough to be just a brown person in white spaces.
Yeah.
So I think it's a great question. It's not one that I really think about, but we are really connected to our research space. We are connected in our Tongan community space. We just came back from Ewaiki, taking a bunch of kava women. So if you know Ewaiki is this tiny little island in Tonga that the kava origin story comes from. So it's one thing to talk about kava and understand and know the story, but it's another thing to go back to the community where the story's from, give them a water tank, give them a bunch of like school kids stuff as our way of showing, hey, thank you, because you're the kaitiaki of this story and this is your land. I've been able to look after my family here in Aotearoa, but I think I always think like if you lead with good intentions and if you're doing things right, people see that. And if you're not, people will call that out. Anything with being Pacific and Maori, if it's not real, they would definitely be like, oh, who are you? So far, I haven't got that. And if I get it, I'll be like, sorry, who are you? Yeah, honestly, if I did get it, I'd be like, sorry, next, nah. But yeah, it's a great question. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. I'll take one more question from the floor.
Sorry, my row's really greedy. Lisa Galanivalu from Foodstuffs. She's not shy, she can ask.
Thanks. Hi, I'm Lisa Galanivalu. I'm a sole trader, currently working for Foodstuffs, so I'm selling one of the best commodities, which is my time. My question is, if you guys were going to start business again, what would be different? Like, what would you do differently if you were going to start again? What were the traps or pitfalls that you fell into that probably, if you did it again, you wouldn't do?
It's probably the well-being stuff, if anything, because that stuff can really affect your family at home. And when you're starting something, it's all great when it's a dream and everyone's on the journey, but then you start running and people might not run beside you, right? Because people grow at different pace. And so if you're not taking care of yourself and your family and the family life, when the successes come, it's gonna not feel as deep. You know, those feelings are just gonna be quite hollow. But the well-being definitely, but also like make sure you understand your taxes. Understand your taxes. Make sure you set up like different bank accounts. You're putting GST away, provisional tax away, so that you can enjoy the money that you're making. But yeah.
I suppose if I was to do it again, my one would be to focus on the brand and the brand story and making sure that you stick to core business. Because often when we get into business, we want to be everything for everybody. And as a result, we stretch ourselves thin and we end up putting money into areas that don't necessarily see payback. So my advice is, if I was to do it again, it would be to just focus on what core business is and stick to that and let someone else do the generalist stuff.
Okay, I think we've gone way over time now, so we're going to wrap it up. I'm going to ask one last question, and then we'll finish from there. Okay? What message do you want to send to our audience and our community about the importance of supporting Pacific and Maori businesses and each other?
Support Māori and Pacific businesses so you can close the pay gap. Instead of 120 years statistically, we can make that shorter by 30 years if you just support Pacific and Māori businesses.
Same as what she said.
Let's own the New Zealand economy. Kia ora.
Hey, hey.
Oh.
Hey, hey.
Oh.
Yay. And that's us. That wraps up our Q&A. I'd like to now pass it on to Rachel. Yeah.
That's nice in the audience. You guys are good. No, I'm really just up here to just say the big thank yous. Yeah, you were all amazing. I was loving it. I love the audience participation. Thank you, Laura, for your questions. Also want to acknowledge the business and law faculty for inviting us all to take part in tonight. And to our curator at the back, Narisha, who's been behind the scenes and pulled this evening together. Thank you. There is networking, at the end. There's Kai, yeah, obviously. I was just like, where is it? Where is it? Oh, there, behind you. You've all seen it. Okay, so Kai is in there, networking. But yeah, thank you so much to our panellists. You were all amazing. Really enjoyed it, and yeah, all the best.
Thank you.
Fun.